Let's talk about the other marquee game here, which was the Lakers and the Celtics measuring stick game for both teams, since the Lakers have looked like one of the best teams, tier 1 teams over the last 3 weeks or so. But in this game, it was a back and forth game. Both teams had leads, really well played. The Celtics pulled away pretty big in the third quarter, 29-13 third quarter. Lakers battled back. But the big story is that LeBron James went down. Before we get to the LeBron injury, groin strain, let's just talk about the game and what stood out to you about it.
Yeah, the third quarter was the game. The Celtics turned up the heat on the Lakers. Luka really struggled in that quarter with pressure. They got into him. They got out and ran. They got better looks in that quarter than they got in the first half. And I just thought you saw the difference between the two teams. The Celtics are a more complete team, and they have more guys that do it on both ends. That's one of the things I like about Oklahoma City too. And I said it yesterday. Like, you don't have to sacrifice one end of the floor for the other. And they're maybe the only two teams in the league I can say that about. The Cavaliers, I guess, probably also a little bit in that category. Like even their role players, you put a guy like Wiggins in or Case and Wallace for OKC, like those guys are capable. Isaiah Joe is a very good defender. Those guys can go get you 10 or 15, or in Wiggins' case, more than that, and still guard. So you're not, if you're Dagnall, you're not thinking at any time, do I have enough of either one of those things in the game? Do I have enough offense? Do I have enough defense? Just play your guys and you're good. Celtics are the same way. Just play your guys and you're fine. You don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. And you saw that in the third quarter. Their defense took over the game. It led to better opportunities in the open floor, and they separated. And it's the difference between the two teams. And that's why, to me, Lakers aren't on that level. Now, look, they've gotten really, really interesting here. Their defense has been great for a long time now. Big sample size. Luka and LeBron seem to be meshing pretty well. Like they're definitely somebody to be taken seriously now. But you saw, particularly in the third quarter, that there's a pretty good separation between the Celtics and the Lakers.
Well, I thought there were two guys in particular that just made such an impression in this game: Al Horford and Jaylen Brown. And I'm going to start with Jaylen Brown. What he did to Luka in the third quarter was rude. I mean, he was so physical with him, so dominant, taking the ball from him.
That's a good word. I like that word.
And then going at him on the other end, like he has this physicality, he has the skill, he has the toughness, he has all those things. But he has an attitude about him in that matchup specifically, where it wasn't just the defense, which was incredible, picking his pocket, which you never see. He did it multiple times, but going right at him. And I thought Luka had a couple possessions where he was defending well, made it hard on him. And Jaylen Brown just shot it over him with touch and hang in the air, double clutch, shot it. And it just was so confident in that matchup against Luka that it almost felt personal.
It did. I agree with you. And I think Luka, his persona, his demeanor make you want to make it personal. Again,
sure.
especially like these bigger, more athletic forwards that can get into him. You have to have strength to play Luka. You can't get by with length and quickness. It just doesn't. He is not fazed by length and quickness. Just ask Minnesota last year, what Luka's able to do to them. Ask OKC too. Like he's not bothered by that, man. You better be strong as a truck, but have lateral quickness too. And that's exactly what Jaylen Brown brings. So, just the way he conducts himself and carries himself, he's going to lend itself to guys making it personal. And you feel and sense that he's not moving very well to get around you, and you can really get up into him 35, 38 feet from the basket. He had a problem dealing with that yesterday. And he put up numbers and half decent stat line. I didn't think it was indicative of the way he played or really the game overall. I thought Boston, they chewed him up a little bit, and you're right. I love the word rude. I'm going to use that.
And then Al Horford was the other guy, both on LeBron and on Luka. The ability to switch your big out onto one of those guys and hold their own, that's such a big part of it. And this was one of his better defensive games. I mean, he's always good defensively, but this was one of the more impressive ones because of who he was stopping.
It's funny. Did you hear also, Horford's, listen, he's one of my favorite players of his entire time he's been in the league. I'm such an admirer of Al Horford. He's the ultimate professional. He was an undersized center for years in this league. Now, not so much because most of team centers are playing on the perimeter. So it's finally caught up to Al Horford. And I'm not saying he was a perimeter player early in his career, but he just was guarding much bigger players, taller players. And he never complained about it. He's a hard hat mentality. He brings it all, man. And he's still doing it this late in his career. This guy thought about maybe retiring, and he's looking this good and having this kind of an impact. So kudos to him. And I thought Jason Tatum's interview after the game was pretty telling when they asked about that defensive performance in particular and like what stood out. He's just a guy coming off a 40-point game himself. Yeah. His teammate, running mate, had 31. So the two stars got it done. And you know who he mentioned? Drew Holiday.
Ooh.
He said, we got Drew back, man. We're a different team with Drew Holiday. And he singled him out specifically in his comments and saying he does things that do not show up on a stat sheet defensively with his positioning, his rotations, like everything that he does to cover for guys. He said you won't even see it on a stat sheet. So he credited Drew Holiday with a big part of that defensive performance, even though it was more other guys getting the credit for it.
Yeah, well, I love that, man. They have so many guys, just so many guys that they can throw at you. They're really impressive.
Too many. Yeah, they scored 20 points on us gambling. They had 16 offensive rebounds. We ball watched all night. We said no dare shots. I'll go through it. They probably made 6, 7 uncontested threes. Just shortcuts. You want to be a good team, you want to win in the NBA, you got to do the hard stuff. We couldn't even pass to each other. We couldn't enter our offense. Running ball screens literally at half court. Yeah, that's going to end up in a turnover. I don't know what we're doing.
He didn't seem thrilled after that one. All right, the Lakers have a brutal stretch upcoming with 6 games in 8 nights, and their quality of opponent is backloaded. The Lakers' remaining strength of schedule is the 4th toughest down the stretch of the season. So, Brian, as good as the Lakers have looked here during the past 2 months, the injury to LeBron could derail things a little bit here. What's the most important thing here without LeBron on the floor?
Well, they're about to play, as you mentioned, back-to-back-to-back, back-to-backs.
Say that again?
That's a mouthful.
Back-to-back, day off, back-to-back, day off, back-to-back, which is why this game they needed to win.
Yeah.
Made this a bad loss. They had 3 starters out. Absolutely true.
Yep.
But if they were going to lose, you wanted to lose to the Nets playing brilliantly. They lost because they played sloppily. So they're going to take some losses here. Even if LeBron was healthy, he probably would have sat out some of these games, and they might have lost them. Maybe they'll win them. The 5 and 7 days are all at home next week. They're great at home. Maybe they will, get some games that maybe they won't. So as a result, the reason I think JJ is taking this note to call his team out, first off, before these last 2 games, they'd won 20 of 25. It's not an opportunity for the coach to really correct the players much. So I think part of that's the other thing is that JJ knows they need to be precise. They can't have much of a margin for error during this stretch.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm not going to panic so much that we're going to lose a bunch of these games. Yeah. If I'm the Lakers in the short term, what I'm doing here is a little bit of schedule watching, a little bit of standings watching here. What I want to do coming out of this, I don't want to be playing Golden State in the first round. I don't want to be in a position to play the Nuggets early. I'm looking at Memphis. I'm looking at Houston. Yep. If I can position myself where I have a first